we are halfway through BrightSpace, could you please briefly remind us what the project is about and what it aims to achieve?
BrightSpace is at its core about defining and operationalizing what is called a safe and just operating space for EU agriculture. Defining means that we have devoted some effort to identify the relevant metrics that needs to be measured to compare policy alternatives or technology alternatives, and to see to which extent we get closer to, say, biodiversity targets or to targets related to food and nutrition security. Operationalization in this context means that we have to identify quantifiable measurements for this, which can also be integrated in our simulation model toolbox and then be used to make projections until 2050 or even beyond that, but we are currently working on 2050 to see to which extent European agriculture gets closer or further deviates from the safe and just operating space. So we have advanced our modeling toolbox in that respect. We have set up a number of storylines where we think that these are convincing storylines towards 2050. After all, this is about the future, so we cannot know, but we can identify plausible trajectories or chains of events that may take place until 2050. And for those events, we identify technology options and policy options where we think they can help to bring European agriculture back to the safe and just operating space. And we can test this with our simulation models and hopefully provide then evidence-based support for European and national policy making.
How would you describe the progress of BrightSpace so far? What are some of the main results or insights that the project has already generated?
So we are now coming close to the end of our second reporting period. So BrightSpace is now operational for 3 years. And in the last 3 years, we have devoted ourselves to two broader activities, let's say. One is how to define the safe and just operating space for European agriculture, how to identify thresholds that should not be exceeded also for this safe and just operating space. We have made the necessary model adjustments. We can do things with our simulation models that were not possible before. And we have identified plausible future scenarios and plausible trajectories until 2050, so we can now make policy assessment using our simulation tools for the current period, but also for a potential future in the year 2050.
In the past 2 years, global events and the EU policy debates around food security, climate and competitiveness have evolved. How has BrightSpace adapted its work to remain relevant in this changing context?
There are two aspects of that question. The first is our definition of a safe and just operating space, what the whole project is about to identify. And this safe and just operating space includes measurements regarding food and nutrition security. It includes measurements for biodiversity, for nutrient balances, agricultural incomes, and so on. All of these are relevant under a wide range of external conditions and events. So in that respect, we are flexible enough, and our method remains relevant under a wide range of possible scenarios, including internal and external policy changes or environmental changes. What is, of course, very much influenced by events like the war in Ukraine or recent price spikes on the food markets, is that we include this then more prominently in the scenarios we like to analyze. So it is reflected also in our thoughts about what are plausible future developments until the year 2050. There we have to make, of course, a lot of assumptions and see which currently evolving trends are likely to persist and which others are not. Obviously, there is. It is not possible to say this with any certainty, but we can at least get an idea about the range of the uncertainty by considering multiple positive or negative events.
What challenges has the project faced so far, and how the consortium addressed them?
I would think right now of three particular challenges, because I was more or less directly involved with them. So the first is related to the definition of the safe and just operating space, because we have to identify thresholds for a wide range of very different indicators related to biodiversity, to food and nutrition security, to income, and also to trade. And it is not always possible to derive a scientifically exact threshold where we can say we do not want to go above or below this level. So we have to rely on plausibility considerations and on norms. For instance, current EU proposals or proposals at national level, for instance, guidelines with regard to nutrition. And to combine this in a consistent manner is a challenge. I think we have made some progress in that area. We will see in the beginning of next year if that also passes then the wider test of an external audience. It's about plausibility at the end of the day. The second challenge is the more technical thing that we have to adjust well-established modeling systems to new research questions. And that is, for the different teams, of course, in some cases really a challenge to include new indicators to be calculated or new policy measures. And then a third challenge is to identify plausible storylines for future events until 2050, because this is the target here where we would like to make our projections for the safe and just operating space and how European agriculture moves away or towards the safe and just operating space. And here I'm giving this interview just in a room where we spent the last 2 days talking about what are plausible scenarios. Is it plausible to assume that indeed by 2050 we will have a fragmented world, a wide range of trade agreements between countries, and what does it actually mean for those modeling systems that do include bilateral trade flows between countries? So to translate this type of qualitative narrative into something that can be modeled and quantified with a computer model, that is of course also a huge challenge we're facing. But we made a lot of progress during the last 2 days, I would think.
Looking ahead, what are the key priorities for the second half of the project?
Implementation. We have set up now the modeling systems so that we can make meaningful analysis for alternative technologies, alternative policy options in our modeling systems, and we can make projections until 2050 and compare different scenarios. This is the state we have. What it is now for the remaining time to do is that we actually apply these model developments that we have devoted some time to in the last years. So we will define the scenarios we would like to test. We will execute the models. We have to do the reporting. This is also time consuming because we generate a vast amount of results, and they have to be condensed and presented in a way that it is, of course, also understandable and plausible for a wider audience. So that is largely the main work plan for the remaining 2 years, I would say.
How can BrightSpace make the most of these challenges and opportunities to deliver impact for policy, science, and society?
Communication and dissemination, of course. We have reached a good degree of visibility at EU level, at the level of the European Commission, I would say. We are in contact constantly with the colleagues from the different general directorates. We have to reach out also to national policymakers more. That is an area that is a bit underdeveloped so far, but national policymakers should also be more aware of what we are doing. And we have to present our results in such a way that it's understandable and plausible for these audiences, so that they can take it up and integrate it in their policymaking processes.